Hello, so in this lesson we're going to be taking our pop animation that we've done and we're going to be adding it to the balloon template that I showed you earlier. If you haven't downloaded it yet, then go now to the class materials section where you can download balloontemplate.aep. What we're actually doing in this lesson is called compositing, so that's when you take multiple assets, whether it's animation, text or footage or whatever it is, and you can combine them into one thing. In our case it's going to be the pop animation and the balloon animation, and we're going to composite them into one thing. So let's get to it. So your project should look something like this. You should have a pop composition up there and your pop animation shape layer will be inside that composition. Now what we're going to do is just import my balloons template project. You can import an entire After Effects project into your current project. So let's just do that now. So in your class materials, you should have a project named balloons template. So if you right click here on in your project window, go to import file. So go to class materials and download it if you haven't done it already. Go to the folder where you saved it and you should have balloonstemplate.aep, which is an entire After Effects project. If you double clicked on that in Explorer or Finder, it would just open up After Effects, this After Effects project. But we're going to import the entire thing. So click import and then it should come in as a folder, balloonstemplate.aep, and inside is the entire project. And then the next thing we're going to do is open that folder if you haven't already, and double click on balloons template. So this should open up this project. I'm just going to click on this. At the moment I'm at 50% zoom. Your one might be different. I'm going to do fit up to 100% so that I can resize this window here by dragging on this line that divides the different sections of After Effects up. I'm just going to pull this up so that we can see a little bit more of the composition down here, and this just shrinks if you've got it fit up to 100%. So just to have a quick overview of what we're looking at, this is all the animation that's happening in the balloon comp. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but explore it at your own pace. And if you drag the playhead along, you can see the balloons come up and they just pop like that. Hopefully you're not overwhelmed by this. This is just a few things that are different happening. The balloons come up and you can see as they disappear, I'm just turning the layer off here by dragging the layer out point so that they just turn off at different times for the three balloons. And then you can see my mountain layers there and the cloud layers, and then there's background color there. We're not actually using the clouds, but you can turn those on if you want to, but I'm going to leave them off. And this is super simple. All we're going to do is we're going to drag the pop composition that we made previously, and we're going to drag it in. And the first one is going to go below layer number 4. So I want them to go underneath the balloons. So I'm going to drag that into here. Now you can see pop 1 has appeared here. And the way we've animated it, so you've now got multiple compositions at the top of your composition window, so you can go back to your pop animation. So if you want to go back to your pop, you can just click on these tabs here. And we've animated the pop right at the beginning of the composition. And the balloons pop later on in the composition. So obviously there's a pop right in the middle here, and as you scroll along, the balloons pop a bit later on. So what we need to do is we need to drag our pop along. Pretty sure, you may have your masks turned off, so we need to turn those back on. So this button here, toggle mask and shape path visibility should be on. That way you can see what you're clicking on. So when you click on something, you can see what it's clicking on in the actual composition. So when I click on this one, balloon main 1, it's the middle one. So actually let's do that one first. So we can drag our pop and just put it underneath here. It doesn't really matter where we put this as long as it's below the balloons. I just want it to be right below the one that's actually popping, so you know what you're looking at. So I'm going to drag along to where the red balloon pops, this frame here, and I'm just going to drag this pop composition to the point at which it pops. So now the red balloon goes off and then our pop animation happens. So actually there's a frame, if you step through the frames very slowly, the balloon disappears, then there's a blank frame, and then the first frame of the animation happens. So if you followed me exactly, you should have this. Doesn't really matter if you don't, because basically all we need to do is just do it by eye. So basically I want when the first frame that there's no balloon, I want to be the first frame of pop. So I need to just drag it back one frame. So we go to this frame here, drag it back one frame, and now we should have balloon, then pop on the next frame, and then it just pops. And also you might notice that it's not where the balloon is. So that's the other thing we need to do, is we need to move this composition so that it's right underneath the balloon, because we know that the pop was in the middle of our composition. So this anchor point here tells us the middle of the composition. This is the middle. If we go back and turn our title action safe on again, you can see that that anchor point is right in the middle. Let's turn that off for now. So we just need to drag this anchor point literally with make sure you've got the selection tool selected and make sure you've got your pop 1 composition selected and just move it to the middle of the balloon. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be exact, but just do it by eye. And now when you step through, balloon will pop, and then we've got a nice satisfying graphic pop. So we play it. Perfect. And now we just need to do the same for the other two. So you can either drag the pop in again, or you can just duplicate this one. And to duplicate, you do Control D or Command D on a Mac. So click on your pop and do, I'm using a PC, so I'm just going to do Control D. I'm going to make 2. So now we've got 3 pops now. And I'm going to drag this one down underneath the balloon 3, and I'm going to drag this one down underneath balloon 2. And then we know that it's 1 frame off, so I'm going to drag this. This is lining up, and just 1 frame back. And the same, so this is lining up with this, but 1 frame back. And then we just need to get the positions right. So this balloon, so balloon 3 is the blue one. So I'm going to click on the pop that's underneath the balloon 3, and I'm going to move that to here. Middle of the blue one. I'm going to just check that works. Yep, that's fine. And then I'm going to scroll ahead to when the yellow one pops, and I'm going to move make sure the pop that's underneath balloon 2 is selected, this pop, and just move that to the yellow one. Replay that. We've got 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And the only other thing that we might want to do, so this is basically done now, but all these pops are the same size and the balloons have a slight variation in size. These two are smaller than the red one, so I'm going to leave the red one as it is, and I'm just going to scale down the pops for the yellow and blue ones. So I'm going to click on the blue one, go to the pop, click on a layer and press S, you'll get scale. And the other way to get that is just to roll it down, roll down the layer, roll down transform, and then you've got anchor point, position, scale, rotation, similar to what we've got in the shape layers, but this is much simpler because it's just for a layer. There's no other options other than the transform options. And the scale here is what we're looking at, what we're interested in. So if I just scroll along to where we can see the pop, you can see if you click and drag on these numbers, you can scale it down, up and down. So I'm going to go with something about 60%. See how that looks. Maybe a bit bigger than 60%, maybe 80%. Yeah, 80% looks good. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to open the one for the yellow one. And I think that can be about 80% as well. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Very nice. And again, we can try our preview range. So if you want to just test the bit that you're working on, you can move these two handles here, which is your preview range. And you can press spacebar within this range and it will loop around and around. And if you double click it, it will pop back to the full length of the timeline. And then make sure you save. So Command S, Control S. Congratulations, you have now successfully completed a beautiful popping balloon animation. Let's quickly recap the steps we went through to composite our animation. First, we imported the balloon template.aep project into our pop animation project. I then gave you a very general overview of how the balloon animation was put together inside the balloon comp. After that, we dragged our pop comp into the balloon comp. We then shifted the pop animation along in the timeline so that the pop starts exactly when the balloon pops. We then positioned the pop in the middle of the balloon so that it looks like it's actually coming from the balloon when it bursts. And then we repeated the same step for the other two balloons. And finally, we scaled the left and right pops down a little bit to match the reduced scale of those balloons. Amazing, so we've now completed our popping balloon animation, but it's still inside After Effects. So in the next lesson, we're going to be going through how to export an MP4 of your animation. So I'll see you there.